Let's make some resin flower coasters. I'm going to be using the fast cure epoxy from Let's Resin. It works like magic to make resin flower coasters. I'm going to be showing you how I mix my resin today. This epoxy is a 1-to-1 ratio, so it has two parts inside the box, a part A and a part B. And you want to make sure you pour equal parts A and B into your mixing cup. They have to be completely spot on equal for your resin to cure and set up properly. I was working on quite a few projects, so I poured in 8 ounces part A, 8 ounces part B, and now I'm going to mix this up for 3 minutes with my silicone spatula. And you can see that little black stuff on my spatula. That is black epoxy from a different pour. I reuse my stir sticks and I didn't clean this one off very well. You can reuse your stir sticks over and over. Your old colors won't leak or leach into your new colors as long as your epoxy is mixed up properly. So don't worry about that black. If you reuse your stir sticks, you'll be fine. It won't leak into your new batch of resin. So this is a new clean cup. I mix that mix up for 3 minutes. I'm pouring all my epoxy into this new cup. I like to use the double cup mixing technique because it is a guaranteed way to make sure your resin is mixed properly. Sometimes if you don't mix your resin properly, your resin will not set up properly. So you want to make sure you mix it completely and thoroughly. And when you do this, make sure you scrape every single drop out of this mixing cup because otherwise your parts A and B will not be equal and your epoxy will not set up. So make sure you scrape every single drop out and then you're going to mix for another 3 minutes. And you're going to mix slowly. You don't want to introduce a bunch of air bubbles into your epoxy. Scrape the bottom of your cup, scrape the sides of your cup, scrape off your stir stick, and mix for another 3 minutes. And when you work with resin, you want to make sure you wear nitrile gloves, long sleeves, and a respirator mask. That's going to protect your lungs because epoxy is a chemical in liquid form. So you want to make sure you wear a respirator, work in a well ventilated area, and wear nitrile gloves. I have my resin all mixed up here. I'm going to fill up my molds halfway. We're going to be pouring these in 2 different layers. So I'm pouring in 2 ounces of clear into my molds right here. We're going to be making 2 coasters. So like I said, 2 ounces clear into each of my molds. And sorry about the angle right here. I'm going to fix that in just a second. I was working on a few other projects, so and I'm going to take 1 ounce of that clear, pour it in this little cup, and we're going to mix up our white that we're going to use to make the resin flower. This white works amazing with the Fast Cure epoxy from Let's Resin. It's their ocean white liquid pigment. All you need is 1 drop in 1 ounce of clear to get gorgeous resin flower coasters, and you want to mix this up really well. You can see on this stir stick too, I had some white on there from the last time I made resin flower coasters. I do not clean off my stir sticks. I just let them set up on my parchment paper on my workstation, and then I reuse them over and over. It helps reduce waste, and I mix up white a lot because I love to make these resin flower coasters, so I just use the same stir stick over and over again. You can do the same thing. And like I said, I'm using the Fast Cure epoxy from Let's Resin and their Ocean White. All the products I'm using are from Let's Resin. Discount code Naptime will give you a discount on their website. You want to make sure you really mix up that white, get that white incorporated into that clear. I'm going to be using their dark magenta alcohol ink, and I'm going to add 10 drops right on top of that clear that we added to the molds. You can get the molds from Let's Resin as well. And then I'm going to take a silicone paintbrush and just blend that alcohol ink in with the clear. And when I do this, I'm only working on the surface of the resin. I'm not pushing down to the bottom of the mold. If you do that, you could scratch your mold depending on what you're using. Silicone paintbrush won't scratch your mold, but if you're using like a toothpick or a wooden stir stick, that could scratch your mold. So just work on the surface of your resin. Just blended that ink in with the clear, and now we're going to pour our white that we mixed up, the ocean white liquid pigment. And I like to start in the center, do a little swirl, working my way out towards the perimeter of the mold. And if you've been struggling to make these, definitely try out that Fast Cure epoxy from Let's Resin. I promise with their ocean white, it works like magic to make flowers. It works so good every single time. I've never got a flower that I didn't like. If you follow the same technique that I'm doing and use the same products that I use, you will get the same results. Just going to finish pouring down my white here. And now we're going to draw our flower petals. Same thing, working on the surface of the resin, not pushing down to the bottom of the mold. I like to start by doing a little swirl in the center with my silicone paintbrush, and then I start at the top, go in at the bottom, right side, left side, and then cut right down the center on each of those quarters that I made, and then do another round of lines starting from the center going out to the perimeter of the mold. And I like to think of a face of a clock when I do this. So on this bottom one here, I'm gonna swirl in the center, do a little swirl in the center just like this, and then start at the top. So 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then you'll have quarters, splitting each of those down towards the center, and then do another round of lines going out to the perimeter of the mold. Super easy to make these with this technique, and like I said, if you use the same products that I use, they're going to turn out amazing every single time. Do a little swirl in the center, and that's it. I'm going to let these cure overnight. This is the next day. I am going to fill the molds up the rest of the way with some silver holographic glitter, and I only needed 1 ounce for each of these. So I have 2 ounces of resin here in this cup. Just going to mix in the glitter. You can use any color of glitter that you want, or you don't have to do glitter. You could just fill the mold up all the way on the first day if you want to, but I like to give these a little bit of sparkle on the back. So I pour slightly underfill the mold on the first day, and then the next day go in with some glitter mixed with clear resin just like this, fill up the mold the rest of the way. So I just poured it in, let it level out a little bit, and now I'm going to take one of my stir sticks, just kind of help it reach the perimeter of the mold. Same thing on the top coaster up here. Super easy to make these. I hope you guys give this a try. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you've seen that I've tried a lot of different brands of resin to make these resin flower coasters, and the Fast Cure Epoxy from Let's Resin is the best that I've tried so far. It consistently gives me the same results or similar results as you'll see here, because no two of these flowers are ever going to turn out the same. They're going to be more like sisters, not twins. I let that glitter layer cure, and here's how they turned out. Super beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, and you can kind of see the glitter sparkling under that alcohol ink. Alcohol ink is transparent, so it's going to give you a little bit of transparency where you can see that glitter peeking through there. So that's why I like to do the glitter layer on the next day. And like I said, you can do any color of glitter you want. You can get real creative with it. Here's how the other one turned out. So you can see they are not the same, but definitely similar. Still both really beautiful. I think this one's my favorite. I like the depth on the petals that I got on this one. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Naptime Creations, and definitely check out Let's Resin for all your resin products. Discount code Naptime. Bye guys.